Fingers crossed. It's going to work. It's going to work. All right. It says live, but we shall see. I just want to do a refresh over here. All right. I think it's working, everyone. This is exciting. It's working. Woo! Okay. All right. Well, hello, everyone in this Be Extraordinary Network. I am Ashley Borromeo, the founder of Tap Fit Fam, and I have my beautiful friend Irene here. And we are just going to dive right into what is so extraordinary about Irene and her business and how she shows up in the world to serve other people. So I'm going to let you, Irene, take it from here. Could you please introduce and tell us where you are in the world, even though I could probably drive and meet you for this interview?
Yes, you could. Yes. Well, thanks, Ashley, for having me here. And for those of you who I haven't met here in the community, super excited to get to know you. I'm Irene Gouge with Loving Lessons Sleep Solutions, and I work as a sleep coach and postpartum doula, where I am known for helping parents get more sleep with the right strategies. And I'm here in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. I'm down south in Holly Springs. And so I'm super excited. I get to work with anxious, overwhelmed parents that are in or out of the home working, that are in a season where they have a newborn to a preschool age child. And so that's what I get to do. And I love helping families learn about sleep.
And I love that you love helping families, like learning about sleep, learning about anything. Like the fact that it takes a special person to, we all love our own families. Yes. We all love our own families, but it takes a special sort of energy and love and compassion to share that, the lessons, and not just the wins, right? The lessons, the trials and tribulations with other moms, and have the patience, because especially if it's a newborn mom, that's a whole other level of coaching than if it's a toddler mom. So, and not one is easier than the other, I'm sure. The toddler mom is like, I tried everything, you know? So it's just so beautiful. And Irene, we've known each other now for, gosh, 3 years?
Yes, I think so.
3 years. So I know quite a bit about Irene, and we meet every month. We connect. We have for the past 2 years. So I want to make sure that everybody in this extraordinary community gets to hear and see more about you. So the first thing I want to ask you, and I wrote some notes, and we may or may not stick with these because we may just have a beautiful conversation. But you definitely have a heart and a passion to serve. I mean, you and I have had conversations about our entrepreneurial journeys, going above and beyond. And one thing that you have done this year in 2024, and since we're almost out of the year, I just want to celebrate you, is your approach with the nonprofit. And that says so much about you and your heart and the women that you are really wanting to help. And so I just want to ask, where did your passion to serve come from?
Where did it come from? I don't know if I could pinpoint one specific area, but I know that as a recovering people pleaser, I would notice emotions and feelings that people were having, and I could see like the pain and struggle that people were in. And I think for me personally, as a new mom, like I just remember with my son Connor, like I just walked miles and miles and I didn't know and understand like what he needed. And I think the beauty of it for me now is like, I hated the newborn season because like there's a lot of parents listening here and they're like, I don't love this age group, right? And like, I think it's important to validate moms and like, yeah, you may not like this season, but I also think that like sometimes it's maybe we're having some misunderstandings. And that's what was happening for me. And I was dealing with a lot of intrusive thoughts at the time. And so figuring out like what was happening with me so that I could show up and be there to serve my family. But then like I was a school teacher by trade and it was easy for me to help others, but it was difficult in those like personal home relationships. So there was a healing journey that I had to go through. And now that like I'm on the other side of that, like I've seen so much growth personally, it just like it's just a joy and pleasure to just come alongside and help families and see those struggles, you know, especially like I know for me, I struggled with the nursing journey. And so sitting there with a newborn mom and being there in the middle of the night, helping her through that and her recognizing the things that she's trying to surrender and learn about in that journey is just so beautiful. And so like for me, I oftentimes I'm like, it's such a privilege just to come alongside families and be able to just be there with them. And so I just get jazzed about watching parents grow and learn, because it's like the children will always learn and grow, because I think children are just so capable of everything and anything. But I think sometimes as parents, we forget that journey of
Yeah.
learning for
And
ourselves.
isn't that the interesting thing? Is like we were all kids once too. What happened?
Yeah.
You know, like
And I think to your question of like, when did that, like, I always knew I loved working with kids. I remember even my dad, he said, like, you're really good with kids. Like, you understand what they need. And I was like, okay, so I have this like gift, but like, he never really helped me shape that. And I guess like, I figured that out along my journey as to how to do it. So it's kind of neat to reflect back on all of that.
yes, and I think that that's where you and I have such a bond together as friends and as entrepreneurs that are just serving in different ways. Again, I teach dance and you teach people how to sleep, how to get their families to sleep better. But ultimately, what we're doing trickles down into the whole house. And who we're serving is actually the entire home. The lessons go to everybody. And so it is extremely rewarding. I love when you said on the other side of that. And when you said, you went through that journey and you were dealing with the sleep, and Irene has two sons. I won't tell your personal stories, but you have two sons and they didn't sleep great, right? So like
No.
the mess always becomes the message. But there are people in this community who I know personally that I've seen just this week in the thread and the comments who don't feel like they're on the other side yet of maybe whatever their mess is or their struggle. And we all have that. Um, would you say, and I think I know the answer, but would you say that that was a quick get on the other side, or does that take some time?
Mm. So my boys are 18 and 16. And I would say that it was like probably when my oldest was 14. So maybe 14 years, right? To kind of go through that. And one of the things that I'll oftentimes say to my boys is I'll say something like, well, you'll have to go to therapy about this. I'm like, because I'm not perfect and I'm screwing up every day, and I think for me in my space, like I help parents. And like, I think sometimes there's this expectation I can put on myself as a recovering people pleaser of like, I have to have it all together. And I think being in communities like this and working with other entrepreneurs and connecting helps us recognize like we're human, we screw up, and we can learn through that journey. And so, like, for anyone who's in it right now, like, there is a lesson on the other side. I think that just sometimes, like, if we keep avoiding it, then we'll never, like, it'll take us just more reps to get
Yeah,
there. And
yeah.
and I think my company is called Loving Lessons because I really truly believe you'll learn about love and life through your children. And it is this journey of learning to surrender what we can't control. And like what I love about you and your tap dancing is you have to move your body, and you have to move your body to get good sleep. And then you have to nourish your body. And so they're like, it's not just about focusing on one area, it's like a holistic approach to everything. It's like looking at ourselves, how we're showing up and leading our little ones, looking at the environments we're creating and empowering our kiddos and ourselves, and then playing through that. And those are actually my sleep principles that I share with families because, again, to get to that other side, it's a journey of like a lot of reflection. And the work that someone's doing right now, like you're in that right place at the right time to get you to the other side.
And I don't know about you or anybody else listening, but I've heard that many times, and I even say it when I'm teaching, like you're exactly where you're supposed to be, or you're in the right place at the right time, or everything happens, for a reason, or when the time is right. And it's like when you're in the mess of it, that is so frustrating. And you're just like, but I don't want to be here, right? I don't choose to be frustrated. I don't choose to be feeling this low energy. And so do you have any advice or any experience that you've lived that you can say, well, that was an extraordinary moment for me. Like maybe that was an all-time low, or that was I really was, like the down of that energy or in that place.
Yeah.
Was there an extraordinary moment when that happened for you, Irene, that you wouldn't mind sharing, that was like, okay, but this is what I saw after that?
Was there that extraordinary moment? So I think as going into the entrepreneurial journey, taking a leap of faith and like just working for myself. Cause for the longest time, I didn't believe I could work for myself. I was like, the message I kept getting from my husband was like, you have to have a job so you can have insurance and, all these things. And so taking that leap of faith in 2020, in the midst of all the craziness of the world, I was going to become a postpartum doula. And there were so many things that like I remember going in to turn in my 2 weeks notice at the daycare center that I was working. And like, cause for the longest time, I've been doing my sleep coaching work since 2011. And it was kind of like I was just doing it, but like not really putting my heart and soul into it and like being able to just do that full time. But there were the lessons that I had to learn that led me up to that moment. And I remember sitting there in the car with the letter and I was like, I don't know if this is the right thing that I'm supposed to do. And I literally had just texted the family that I was going to be working with. And they were like, we're so excited to have you on board. We can't wait to meet you and all this. And I was like, okay, I think that's a sign. I was like, thank you, God. Okay. Like keep taking that step. And I remember like turning in the letter and like, I was like expecting them to be like, oh my gosh, please don't leave, stay here, all that kind of stuff. And they were like, oh, we're going to be sad to see you go, but we're excited about your new adventure. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know that I'm that excited anymore. Like, I was like, I don't know if I have insurance. Like, and so all of the stories that I had been telling myself along the
Love this.
way had like all come to the surface. But then I began working with this family and like, they were just in this place. Like they were miserable. Like they didn't know what was happening with their little one. She was already about 6 weeks old at that point. And like just within like the first hour, like I could just see mom and dad just become relaxed and calm. And I was just like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And,
Oh, that just gave me goosebumps. That was so good.
and so I love that for my
Yeah.
families. It brings tears to my eyes to watch parents like have those moments. But I will say, like, for anyone watching, sorry, I'm getting teary eyed, but
Oh,
I
it's
cried.
that's the passion of
Yeah.
being able to serve and knowing that your work and by you following your heart, even when it felt scary, even turning in the letter, like not knowing, but by taking that next step, it's so scary. I've been talking about courage in my posts in this group often. It's terrifying
Yeah.
because you want to follow the heart, but it feels a little like irresponsible even, or like,
Yes.
well, there's no proof. And when you do it, and then it's not even about what you see. It's not about somebody writing you a letter that's like, you did good, or, oh, here's $5,000 or $25,000, whatever number is important to you. That's nothing. It's the feeling. It's how you feel. And the way that you're crying is like, that's the feeling. And we can all feel it when you say it. So thank you. Keep going. I didn't interrupt. I just want to celebrate you.
Yeah. And I think going back to like what you were talking about, like serving in the nonprofits, like you just see the potential in others, but oftentimes we don't see the potential in ourselves. And so it's helping parents, for me, like figuring out how do we unlock some of that so we can show up and be our best selves, because really truly like that's how our children are going to be able to then show up and be their best selves. And I think that, again, my goal is always therapy reduction. And so it's that process of like, how am I showing up and doing the hard things? Like if I'm going to say something to my boys and encourage them to do hard things, I have to do them too. And I think that's been part of this journey too, is like being able to have those moments and reframe them. And for me, a tool that I share with my families and that I use personally, this actually originated in my daycare days, was the breathe love mantra. And so breathe love was just taking that moment, like when I had that letter in my hand, I was just going to pause and just take a deep breath. And then love stood for where I'm going to listen, I'm going to observe, I'm going to validate and empower the situation. And as I take that time to listen and observe, oftentimes, like whether I'm being triggered by a child, by the situation, I'm observing and noticing, like, what are the feelings that are coming up for me? And then can I even validate? I think oftentimes, like as parents, we're very quick to validate our children, like, oh no, like you fell down, you have a boo-boo. Like, but I think as parents, we might forget, like, I am frustrated because you fell down right now. This is not convenient for me. And so being
Yeah.
able to acknowledge that for ourselves in these journeys can be really
Yeah.
helpful. And so I think when we breathe love into these situations, it helps us just be present and like move forward and enjoy like the journey together.
I could not agree with this more. You use such beautiful words when you say it, and I feel like it's the observation is the most important thing. You know, we see so much, but what you're really seeing is very different from what you're observing.
Yes.
And I use the word notice in my own framework. And our part of this whole Facebook group here is this Be Extraordinary Network is part of a visibility challenge, right? Being visible is observing. And so when you say that, you know, your take on what being a good parent is going to be different from somebody else's take and somebody else's take and somebody else's take, right? Some people will be like, oh, she's too hands-on. Oh, she's so distant. Oh, she's this. You know, there's always this dance of opinions. Yes, and I agree. I love how you are allowing yourself to feel every emotion and choosing to follow your path, no matter how uncomfortable you feel. Exactly. Yes, and yes, Irene.
It is so uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable.
And I think that's where the growth happens, because I think that oftentimes, like, I guess as you know, like a lot of times in my line of work, people reach out to me because they're like, I don't want my child to cry. Right.
Yes.
But I think that in our most teachable moments, we actually have like big girl ugly crying happening to get to the other side. And like children, they just kind of cry because they're like, hey, this is really hard. And they just work through it. They just keep doing it. And they're so resilient in that way. You know, they don't give up. And so I think that as parents, sometimes we will forget that. So I think just being able to like pause and remember to be a little more childlike through those moments.
I'm all for that. Let's all
Key.
tap into the inner child. Please, everybody today, tap into your inner child. What does your inner child want to do? What does your inner child want for lunch? Like something silly, you know? And it's all a journey, and it's such a beautiful dance through sleep, through learning, through the lessons, through the whole love analogy that you gave or acronym that you gave. One thing that you said is that going back, you said it's easier for us, and I think everyone can agree with this, it's easier for us to see the potential in others than it is to see it in ourselves. And that's because we're our own worst critics, right? And that's why the power of community is so important, and to find people that can support you on your journey, even if they have nothing like you and I have nothing to do with each other in our entrepreneurial ventures. I'm teaching tap dance, you're teaching sleep, you know, but the mission and the heart is the same. And that is extraordinary, because not everyone has a passion to serve, and everyone has a passion to just pause and care and listen. And so everyone that's watching here live, I know the names that are in the comments, you guys all do. I know this. And everybody in this community does, because we've all been invited here by each other, which is so powerful. There's already over 400, there's 419 members in this Facebook group already, and we opened it up less than a month ago. Then that's the power of community, and the power in seeing the potential in others. And everybody that's in this group was invited by someone who sees potential and sees extraordinary in them. And I am just honored, because Irene, you're my very first interview here in this group, and you are fantastically extraordinary. Like I love the energy and the smile and everything. Sharissa says, breathe love. Just that alone is beautiful. Yes, it is.
Well, what I will do is I will share a link to my Breathe Love guide, so you can take a peek at that if that helps anybody. Because I think it's not only for parenting. I mean, it works with spouses and all kinds of situations.
Look at that, everybody. This is a women's group.
But I do, like, again, it's one of those things we don't realize, the day-to-day moments, you know, and I think I saw you post something. It's like in the small, ordinary moments, like that's where the magic happens. And it really is so true. It's like those hard moments where our little ones are crying, when it's really hard, when it's really messy.
When it's messy, when it's messy and when it's not perfect, that's where life is actually happening. All the picture perfect social media stuff, all the picture perfect pre-recorded stuff, that's not real life. It's breathe love into the, I mean, you guys, look, if I do this, Look, I have a little one behind me somewhere. She's down
I was
there.
going to say, I'm like, I see your cabinets opening.
She,
Closing.
she's got puzzles down here. Like, this is life. And this is
I
the
love it.
beauty of being that leader and stepping into your passion and being able to serve from this place of this is what I want to do. I want to live the legacy, the person, the woman who serves other people and shares love and shares compassion. And we need lots and lots and lots and lots of humans on the planet to be doing exactly what we're doing, Irene, and doing it in their own beautiful way. Yeah, life is messy and we love it messy. It would be so boring if it was perfect.
Yes.
It would be so like the
and going back to what you said, like, what do you say to that person when they're in that down in the dumps, kind of like you're in that space and like, you actually really want to punch that person who's like, you're in the right place at the right time. Cause like, I know that. One of the other things that I'll share is like, I usually recall that as like an anchor lesson.
Yes.
So like, if I can go back to like, hey, I've already been through this sucky period before, and there's goodness on the other side. And it's the ashes that will become beautiful from that story. And so I think that it's a good reminder to reflect back on that journey. Like, I have a timeline journey of like all the big moments that I've gone through, and I've seen the beauty come from that. So I think that can be helpful. And then also having your tribe of people that you can connect with that can help lift you up in those moments. And like, for me, I used to have like 3-month-long pity parties. So now I schedule a pity party. I'm like, okay, I can only do this for like 2 to 4 hours. Then I have to reach out and talk to somebody because this is ridiculous.
Okay, everybody hear that? So if you need it, schedule your pity party, give yourself a time limit, and then let's like keep moving. I love it. Love it.
Because like literally, like I would just allow that to sabotage me and my parenting and all the things. And it's just not a good place to be. And so being able to say, yes, this sucks, and sit in it. And recently that I've been in that space. And I was like, okay, I have to like wrap this pity party up and move on out. Like, get to the next party.
We're getting kicked out. Doors are closing. We're done with this party. Oh my gosh, I love it. And it's the finding, like the fact that we can talk about a pity party and laugh and smile about it. Yeah. That takes another level of self-love. So we can talk about breathe love into other people, but it has to start here. You can't love others and be appreciative of all that you see and observe in them and notice in them if you don't first start here. Because what happens is what you see out there, you get resentful for it, and you start to judge it, and you start to block it, and it is such a beautiful daily reminder that we get to breathe love everywhere, in self and in everyone else, and in either other people's families. And Irene, you just show up so beautifully and extraordinary. And I just keep using that word because that's the name of the group, but it's not an ordinary thing that you do, and how you do it is not ordinary by any stretch. So I just want to thank you for taking the time, because I'm gonna start saying that when I have one, time to wrap it up. Teresa said on the pity party, time to wrap it up. Oh, and Regina has some beautiful, beautiful words here about you, and the way that you serve others. So you are very loved, Irene. If anyone is struggling with sleep, whether that be, the children at different ages or even adults, like Irene has been here, done this, she works. And if she can't help you, I know she knows, obviously incredible community. But if you know of anybody who could use Irene's help, I put her website in the description of this live, but she's going to come back in and put some stuff in the chat. So that way we all get to stay connected and just share our beautiful, extraordinary gifts with the world. And so before I wrap it up, if there is one thing, I know you just said breathe love, which is kind of amazing. I don't know if you can trump that. But what is one more extraordinary thing that you would like people to understand about you? And I put the word extraordinary in there about you, because now you have to think about self as extraordinary. Remember, we see potential in others. What do you see in yourself? I want you to pour that back on yourself, because that is something we all get to witness, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. So I've thought about this, and like I realize more and more that one of my gifts that I have is that I see patterns and I can't unsee them. And so that is what serves me well in the work that I do, because I can notice those kinds of patterns and help people get unstuck from it. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of times parents are like, how come I didn't think of that? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was just like, for me, it's like a no brainer. I'm like, that was so easy. Like, and so I recognize like that is my gift. And I think oftentimes, like when you're in your work, you don't always recognize that.
Yeah.
And I'm owning that, because that is a gift and talent that I have. And I can help others through that, because I see those patterns and notice that and can help them get unstuck.
Oh, and noticing your patterns is how we evolve and how we grow, period. So the fact that you can see that in other people, that saves what we call time.
Yes. Okay, let's get
That's
there.
a lot of time. That's so
Yeah.
good. Yes. Well, Irene, thank you so much for
Yeah.
taking the time in your day. And for being my first interview here. I appreciate that. Sending you all my love. And for anybody, again, just check out the description. You're going to see her Loving Lessons is the name of her website. So it's all there. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashley. You are a beautiful hostess.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Teresa and Regina and Anne. And anybody else who is catching this replay, just let us know. Do a little comment as you watch it.
I'm
Bye,
gonna go
everybody.
check out everyone's comments.
Yeah.